listeners. Throughout this recital, I hope to raise awareness about suicide and mental health and open up a discussion that is often suppressed. I'm going to start with just some general facts and statistics. Suicide is the 11th leading cause of death in the US and the second leading cause in age groups 10 to 34. Every year, over 720,000 people die from suicide worldwide. In 2023, more than 49,000 people in the US lost their lives to suicide, and over 1.5 million people attempted to take their own lives. In Florida, suicide is the 9th leading cause of death, and in 2021, more than 3 times as many people died from suicide as from alcohol-related motor vehicle accidents. Additionally, 78% of Florida communities did not have enough mental health providers to serve residents, according to federal guidelines. In Florida K-12 schools, students are not allowed to have excused mental health absences. School personnel are not required to report student suicide risk to parents or guardians. There is no annual requirement for some school personnel to complete suicide prevention and mental health training. There are no suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention policies or programming, and students are only required to be educated on mental health, not suicide. In Florida colleges and universities, students are not required to receive information on available mental health and/or suicide prevention services or resources. And colleges and universities are not required to adopt a suicide prevention or awareness policy or program. Additionally, Florida does not require public or private health plans to regularly submit parity compliance analyses to state regulators. When it comes to demographics, white individuals had the highest age-adjusted suicide rate, and men died 3.8 times more than women. LGBTQ plus youth are over 4 more times likely to attempt suicide than their non-LGBTQ plus peers. Suicide does not just occur in high-income countries, but is a global phenomenon in all regions of the world. 73% of global suicides occur in low and middle-income countries. Firearms account for 58% of all suicide deaths, and Florida does not have a state voluntary do not sell list for firearms. Finally, a fact that I found enlightening is that for every suicide death, there are 10 emergency department visits for self-harm, 48 self-reported suicide attempts, and 325 people who seriously considered suicide in the past year. Many people who take their lives or have suicidal thoughts don't reach out for help because of the stigma surrounding mental health disorders. Stigma refers to the negative attitudes, beliefs, and stereotypes people may hold towards those who experience mental health conditions. Efforts to prevent suicide have been insufficient, partly due to the limited awareness of its significance as a major public health concern and the stigma that prevents open conversations in many societies. Only a few countries have integrated suicide prevention among their health priorities, and only 38 countries report having a national suicide prevention strategy. There are 3 types of stigma surrounding mental health. The first is structural stigma, involving laws, regulations, and policies that can limit the rights of those with mental health conditions. The second is public stigma, which includes negative attitudes and beliefs from individuals or from groups towards people with mental health conditions. And the last is self-stigma, which comes from within the person with a mental health condition. Many people living with mental health conditions may believe that they are flawed or blame themselves for having the condition. When it comes to stigma surrounding suicide specifically, Oxel found that suicide stigma and suicide normalization were inversely associated, so that higher suicide stigma scores were linked to lower suicide normalization. This means that more suicide stigma was associated with reduced intentions to seek professional help, increased willingness to seek help from family or friends, and lower odds of experiencing current suicidality. Whereas suicide normalization was linked to reduced intentions to seek help from professionals and friends or family, as well as higher odds of experiencing current suicidality. As a society, we need to identify strategies to improve attitudes towards persons affected by suicidality that avoid normalization. Reducing stigma around mental health conditions may look like policies and practices that support people with mental health conditions by reducing barriers they face in settings like workplaces and healthcare. It may also include journalists, communicators, and others in the media working to educate the public responsibly about mental health and portraying it with nuance and avoiding negative, harmful stereotypes. As friends and family, we can treat those living with mental health conditions with understanding, empathy, and acceptance. Having personal, direct contact with people living with mental health conditions has been shown to combat negative stereotypes and reduce stigma. And finally, we need to have open conversations around mental health without using stigmatizing language. Being open with your experiences and receptive to others can raise awareness and destigmatize feelings and opinions. Mental health is just as important as a person's physical health and should be treated with the same respect, without shame. although some may be subtle and hard to read. There are individual risk factors such as previous suicide attempt, a history of depression and other mental illnesses, serious physical illness that may cause chronic pain, substance use, impulsive aggressive tendencies, violence, victimization, and/or perpetration, and a current or prior history of adverse childhood experiences. These people are at large risk of committing suicide, and it is important to check on them. People with a history of mental illness can be at great risk. For example, 1 in 3 people living with PTSD have reported a suicide attempt, and depression is the cause of over 2/3 of all suicides. There are also relationship risk factors like bullying, loss of relationships, high conflict or violent relationships, and social isolation. Other contributing factors include community-related risks, such as lack of access to health care, stress of acculturation, community violence, and discrimination. And finally, there are societal risk factors, such as the stigma associated with mental illness, like I talked about earlier, and unsafe portrayals of suicide in the media. Understanding these diverse risk factors is essential, as early recognition and compassionate intervention can make a life-saving difference for those who are struggling. There are also warning signs to look out for in our friends, family, and loved ones. A change in behavior can be one of the biggest warning signs, especially when that change is in response to a painful event, loss, or change. Some of these warning signs can be if a person talks about killing themselves, feeling hopeless, having no reason to live, being a burden to others, feeling trapped, or experiencing unbearable pain. Behavioral actions can include increased use of drugs or alcohol, looking for a way to end their lives, such as searching online for methods, withdrawing from activities, isolating from family and friends, sleeping too much or too little, visiting or calling people to say goodbye, giving away prized possessions, aggression, and fatigue. Mood changes can also be warning signs. These include depression, anxiety, loss of interest, irritability, humiliation, anger, and relief. Being aware of these warning signs and responding with care and support can play a crucial role in preventing suicide and saving lives. Finally, there are some protective factors that individuals and people around those who are struggling with suicide can use. Individual protective factors include effective problem solving and coping skills, remembering reasons to live, such as family, friends, pets, and loved ones, having access to mental health care, being proactive about your mental health, limiting access to lethal means, and connecting to cultural beliefs that create a strong sense of self-worth. Healthy relationship experiences, such as support from partners, family, and friends, and feeling connected to others, can protect against suicide risk. Finally, societal and community protective factors include feeling connected to school, community, and other social institutions, and cultural, religious, or moral objections to suicide. Building and strengthening these protective factors, both individually and within our community, can foster resilience, reduce the risk of suicide, and create a supportive environment where hope and healing can thrive. tenderly, covering a quiet ache. Brightness in my eyes disguise the dark side of my mind. This mask I bear is mine to wear and mine to keep from breaking. But I'm breaking. I hide these truths not even I can comprehend. In denial that there is nothing bent in my mind, I am fine. But I really can't breathe. Every breath feels like daggers. This constant strive to be perfect so no one can see what's really wrong with me. I convince myself of these lies that I hide because it is easier than realizing that I am broken and ugly and scarred. No one needs to know that. I smile, but I still feel this mind-numbing ache that consumes my body. Is life supposed to feel this way? Why do I have to put on a face while everyone around me is okay? I guess I must be brave. This feeling is invisible. Can no one really tell how damaged I am? I feel myself drowning in a sea of despair and withering away until I fade into a memory of who I used to be. I look into the mirror and don't recognize the face staring back at me. I'm yelling into a void where nobody can relieve me of this torture. I need someone to hear me. I'm begging, I'm pleading, I'm screaming, I'm shouting. I am on my hands and knees, praying for someone to notice that I am not okay, while also praying that God will take me away. I bear this silent cry inside of burdening those in my life, holding the thought that maybe one day I will be fine. But for now, I carry on with this mask outside, showing a bright ray of sunshine, and deny happiness that is no longer mine. In today's society, there are many ways to find resources for help. If you or someone you know is in crisis, you can always call the free suicide crisis hotline at 988 or chat at 988lifeline.org. Additionally, there are specific lines for more at-risk groups. The Trevor Project offers a 24/7 hotline for the LGBTQ+ community. A disaster distress helpline and specific veterans crisis line are also available. Volusia County also has a crisis line, which is partnered with Stetson and available 24/7. Here at Stetson, free counseling is available to any currently enrolled student. You can go to Griffith Hall to set an appointment or schedule online. If you are having an emergency during open hours, they will take walk-in crisis appointments. The CDC also offers resources for coping with stress, coping with a disaster or traumatic event, and mental health. You can also talk to your primary care doctor, a local psychiatric hospital, a local urgent care, a local emergency department, and a local walk-in clinic. All of these resources are available at the end of your program notes. As family and friends, there are many ways to support those going through suicidal thoughts or experiences. Having open and honest conversations with a person can look like talking to them privately, listening to their story, telling them that you care about them, asking them directly if they are thinking about suicide, encouraging them to seek treatment or contact their director or therapist, and avoid debating the value of life, minimizing problems, or giving advice. If a person says that they are thinking about suicide, work to keep them away from lethal means like firearms and drugs, and remind them that their suffering is temporary. If a person says that they are considering suicide, you should stay with the person until professional help can be reached. Call the 988 hotline and escort them to mental health services or the emergency room. Checking in regularly with people who exhibit warning signs or who you know are struggling can mean the difference between a life saved and a life lost. If you know someone is having a problem, it is essential not to wait and have these conversations before the problem gets more serious. There are so many ways to support the people in your life, but the most important is to live your life with kindness, compassion, and humility, and to treat everyone with respect, because you never know the effect one word, sentence, picture, or post can have on someone. I want to wrap up this talk by saying that without the people in my life who offered a smile, a compliment, or a helpful hand, I may not be here today. So thank you to everyone in my life. You made a difference, whether you know it or not. And to anyone out there struggling today, remember that pain is temporary and that you are not alone and never will be. Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. 'Cause maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand. And oh,